Good afternoon, everyone, or morning or evening, depending on where you're dialing in from today. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. My name is Johnny from Opus Independence, the social enterprise behind the Festival of Debate. This year's festival programme started on the 13th of April and runs all the way to the 26th of May. It includes over 70 events, 150 speakers, and working with over 50 partners. The festival looks to explore the entangled ecological, economic, and political crises we collectively face. There are no easy answers, but we hope the festival creates a space to explore and hold complexity and uncertainty and brings together a community of people to make change where they are. Most of our events are free at the point of access. We do need to charge. We keep ticket prices to an absolute minimum. If you are in a position to be able to make a donation to help support the festival, please do so by visiting thefestivalofdebate.com, and I will put a link in the chat. A few housekeeping bits before we begin this afternoon's conversation and presentation. Drinks are available in your kitchen, wherever that might be in your house, as is the bathroom. That is where you usually find it. We have no planned fire alarm today, so if you do hear something that sounds like that, we highly recommend investigating the reason behind hearing it. On a slightly more serious and useful note, the last thing I'll mention before handing over to Marcus and Simon is that if you have done Zoom before and you have only experienced a Zoom meeting, we are on a Zoom webinar today. What that means is that there is a separate Q&A function and a separate chat function. So if you would like to talk to the other participants on the call, introduce yourselves or make any comments as the presentation and discussion is going along, please use the chat function. But if you are interested in submitting a question that you would like an answer to, please do use the Q&A function. All of these can be found hopefully at the bottom of your screen as an icon, or by going to the right-hand side of that and clicking the three dots, which should bring up a menu for you that will allow you to access all of those features. If you're on a phone or a tablet, depending on the operating system, you can usually find these by swiping left or right or up and down, depending on which provider has your phone or tablet come from. But without further ado, I will hand over to Marcus and Simon to introduce today's event.
Thank you, Johnny, and thank you, Festival of Debate, of inviting Citizen Network to your homes. My name is Markus Vähälä, and I'm the CEO of Citizen Network Cooperative. I'm from Finland, but today I'm in Sheffield, sharing this moment with you, with my dear friend and the president of Citizen Network Cooperative, Simon Duffy.
Hello, everyone. Yes, it's great that you're here. Really excited to listen to Varun again. Varun has been a member of Citizen Network since its very beginning, and I've known him for, gosh, over 15 years, I think, listening to his wisdom from the experience of working at the very real grassroots of poverty and injustice in India, but not just poverty and injustice, the enormous, fantastic wells of citizenship that exist within each one of us. And Varun is somebody who's thought deeply about what it is that makes each of us powerful and how we can come into community together. So it should be a fascinating talk.
Citizen Network is a network of 267 organizations in over 40 countries worldwide. And we work with things related with citizenship and communities, tackling the wicked problems of our times, related with health and social issues, environment, poverty, and injustice. We work and gather together networks around universal basic income, self-directed support, and neighborhood democracy. So please join Citizen Network for free. I will put the link there in the chat in our website, www.citizennetwork.org. You can find the join button as well. And like Simon mentioned, Varun Vidyarthi has been working a long time in India and in other countries, creating solutions, tackling injustice and poverty. So it's very nice that we are now here today to celebrate this journey and join ourselves together with Varun and everybody in Manavodaya to create skills and networks around conscious living. Varun Vidyarthi is the founder and CEO of Manavodaya and is the coordinator of Citizen Network India. Varun is the founder director of Manavodaya, an institution recognized as a center of excellence in people-based self-help approaches to development. Varun has a formal background in electrical engineering and business management from premier institutions in India. He started his career in the corporate world, but during his 20s itself abandoned that track to live and work among poor villagers in Uttar Pradesh. For a short period in early 80s, he became visiting fellow of the Institute of Development Studies, Sussex, UK, the East-West Centre, Honolulu, USA, and also served as a consultant to organizations like FAO and UNICEF. Varun and his wife, Amla, are known for their pioneering contribution to the self-help movement in North India. They have motivated and trained several thousand professionals in India serving the government, banks, and other institutions in practical methods of dialogue, empowerment, and self-help. Varun and Amla were conferred the Human Values Award at the national level in India in recognition of their contribution to values-based management and social change. They continue to provide education and support to facilitators of social change in India. Varun is currently working with other members of Citizen Network to develop Manavodaya International. So welcome, Varun. Let's spend a nice 1.5 hours together with our audience. If the audience, you have any questions, please put it there on chat or raise your hand. So I will then bring those questions into the discussion. Welcome, Varun.
Thank you, Marcus. Thank you, Simon. And I should say thank you, Citizens Network, for providing this opportunity of sharing my life journey. It has really been a search for truth in the context of change. What is the real meaning of change that brings joy and happiness and harmony in our lives? I was fortunate to start this journey early in life, in my 20s, and discovered a lot of chaos. Yes, of course, our world is chaotic, so many things going on. But that chaos was linked to people really wishing to make change. And this is what I discovered early in life, that it is important to go deep, to understand reality, and to first become aware ourselves of what we are trying to see, and enable others also to become aware of what exists beyond what is visible. So today, I have made a short PowerPoint presentation, and I would like all of you to maybe reflect on it and have a short discussion at the end. Marcus, can we have the presentation?
Yes, Varun, just a moment.
I
Well,
can
while
share.
we,
I can share if you would like.
yes, please.
Oh, we got it.
Excellent. So you see, we are really talking about a humanitarian approach to change, which means that the focus has to be on the human being. In a lot of our efforts to bring change, we lose sight of the human being, the human process, the person behind the thinking, the psychology, the deep-rooted distrust that manifests between individuals, the misery that goes behind, outward beautiful scenes of change. It is important that we look into that aspect with a sense of, deep empathy, understanding. So in this presentation, I have listed two essential aspects of connecting to change. One is building self-awareness, and the other is about building collective awareness. So what is the meaning of these terms? How do we move in that direction? And finally, what have thought leaders of different civilizations mentioned on the same subject over centuries? Let us talk about them and let us come to a conclusion of what can we actually do? What can every citizen do to overcome the challenges facing our globe? Can we have the next slide, please? This is just a short summary that despite all technological achievements, we continue to have poverty in almost more than 1/3 of the section of the globe, almost half. Inequality is actually growing, unfortunately, and injustice prevails everywhere, right from our own homes to society to community to international level. And it seems to be growing to the extent that we are faced with problems of terror at all times. We are faced with terrible war right now. And we are faced with extinction because of climate change, all because of our own life being in a mess. What can we do about it? We have been through this journey. We are connecting to people on finding solutions to these at community level first. And we find that it works. My sole inspiration of making this presentation today is to share the idea that this process of building awareness can lead to beautiful changes. It works. And let us all try to work in that direction. Yes, please. It doesn't change from here, the slides. What we discovered in this process of change is there are a lot of people giving, philanthropists, the governments, all kinds of people are trying to remove poverty and inequality by the conventional method of giving. And this is what is creating more problems, because any process of top-down giving, coming from donors, coming from government, coming from philanthropic institutions, actually leads to more problems because it creates the dependency syndrome. We continue to give and they continue to make the demands. The typical query is, what can you give? And we come up with the response, okay, my program offers this. I will give you the answers. I feel this is the crux of the problem. We have to start doing and working things in a different manner, of enabling people, of empowering people, of enabling them to find their own solutions. And it is possible. We have been doing it for almost 3 decades, training people to do that in different countries now with Beautiful results. So let us talk about it. What does it imply? Next, please. The first thing that we all can notice is there are contradictions within communities. So whenever we try to make change, the benefits are usually usurped by a few people, because there are feudal, relations in all communities, north, south, east, west, everywhere. There are ethnic conflicts, again, in all communities. Again, we find people who are poorly literate or illiterate totally. So they don't have an connection to anything written. And of course, a global worldwide problem. There's terrible gender imbalance in almost all societies. So there are contradictions. And if we are trying to create positive, meaningful change, we have to take into account these contradictions. If we don't, we are simply enabling a small section to benefit from any process of change or moving towards a social and economic upliftment or betterment. So to be able to meet these challenges of contradictions, there has to be a process through which we connect to the poorest sections of the society. Change, please. This implies a process of social mobilization, as it is said, which is absolutely essential to empower the people, to give them a voice, and to ensure their participation. Now, what is this process of social mobilization? It is about connecting to them heart to heart, because usually people mistrust any outsider. So overcoming mistrust, overcoming rejection is the first challenge. And it can be done. It takes time. But unless we cross this border, unless we cross this fence, anything that we do makes little sense. This, of course, requires being human. This requires being able to connect with them emotionally, practically, in a way that we are able to communicate heart to heart. Once we do that a little bit, there's need for collective visioning. What does it mean? Arriving at something that both of us can understand. What are we trying to achieve? What direction are we trying to move? What are we trying to do? We both must understand each other. When we say we, I mean the person who is facilitating and the other at the receiving end, the communities. There has to be a common vision of moving forward. Without that common vision, we are actually, maybe just playing games. And once we have this common vision, the next challenge is to be able to enable, to make it possible for communities to take collective decisions. This is not easy. It can be quite superficial. 20 people saying, okay, we'll do it together. But in reality, people are divided. People have different priorities. People have different ways of looking at things. So collective decisions seems to be simple and okay, but enabling people to do so requires different methods. Next, please. What happens when we are trying to connect? If we are very careful, we'll note that there are selected people talking. Not everyone is talking. We need to know who exactly is talking. Are these the poorest sections of the community? Where are we sitting and how are we sitting? In many times, different from ways maybe many of you see in the West, people are sitting at different levels, on different, maybe someone on the floor, someone on the chair. And we need to create an atmosphere where people feel equal. And that we can actually do it, but then it has to be done consciously. And then what are we talking about? Are we simply giving them something, giving some sops? Or are we trying to create an atmosphere where we are enabling or empowering people? Usually, people go there with a predetermined agenda. So they have a project, somebody has funded them, there is a donor, and so they have an agenda. That agenda could be HIV, it could be maybe drinking water, it could be, whatever the donor has given them. And maybe the community has its own agenda. They want something that they have been through their lives. Now, how do we match these agendas? If we don't match these agendas, we are actually having an artificial dialogue. So collective awareness implies overcoming these problems, enabling people to see through, enabling ourselves to see through, and arrive at, a common vision, a process of common decision making. This is not at all easy. It takes time. Next, please. A lot of problems are our own. Problems are made by our own self. What are these problems created by our own self? It is about having our own opinions about what is right and wrong. We all have our opinions. To listen to people, we have to let go of our opinions. Forget anything about we are a professor or a social worker or a scientist. We have to learn and listen. We have to understand the perspective of people. Forget about ourselves. Letting go of our opinions, that does not happen. Doesn't happen because of our own egos. So we have to give up our ego, our arrogance of giving, of helping, and come back to being human, come back to becoming humble. Again, not an easy thing. Humility has to be basic in connecting to people. And of course, we have to overcome all the biases that we have. Oh, that group of people is like that. We have so many biases, prejudices about people, about communities, about life. And unless we overcome them, it's very difficult to connect. It's very difficult to generate that collective awareness among people. So it's back to our agenda of building our own awareness, of understanding ourselves, our motives, before trying to generate collective awareness. Next, please. If we do that, if we build self-awareness at our level, and if you are able to cross that boundary and generate awareness, come to a common understanding, outcomes are absolutely beautiful. Believe me, you have to try it. It takes time, but then the outcomes are absolutely amazing. And this is what happened to us way back 30 years back when we were trying to understand and go through this process. We evolved this concept of self-help. It just came through. Self-help groups is a mechanism, it's a method of enabling people, a small group of people, maybe 10 to 20, of coming together, understanding their problems themselves, and finding solutions, and then having a lot of, let us say, processes of collective decision making on many fronts. It leads to empowerment, it leads to social change, it leads to cutting of domestic violence, it leads to political change. It's an evolution by people themselves. Again, based totally on being our ability to create collective awareness. These are all real life meetings that we've gone through over a period of time, where people come together, talk together, take decisions together, and decide to change their lives themselves. Next, please. Of course, there is a lot of painstaking work necessary. A lot of innovation is necessary. What is it like? It is about collective management, enabling people to do their jobs collectively. What are the management methods that they can follow? These people are, excluded. They have not connected to the formal structures. Many of them are illiterate. Many of them are fearful. They don't have a voice. So how can they manage, their affairs collectively? It's a challenge. But then this needs to be done. It's a painstaking job of the facilitator. How do we enable people to manage cash collectively? We all manage cash individually, but to manage cash collectively is a process. It's a science. It's a mechanism. How do they manage their accounts collectively? They are not trained in accounting. When we are talking about people coming together, putting their savings together, it's about management of accounts also. Otherwise, we don't know where the money has come and where the money has gone. That is a challenge. And then many of these collectives, self-help groups, have converted into small microfinance entities where people come together, save, lend to one person, money comes back, given to another person, and the capital grows. So this process requires management of credit also. How do people give credit to one another? What are the rules there? Of course, people are very scared, thinking that if I give the money will not come back. But the beauty is that when the collective awareness is generated, it generates trust. And if we strengthen it through proper accounting systems, through proper cash management systems, there is a process through which people can gain confidence. And it leads to growing of, let us say, additional activities like credit, about business development. And I'm not, shy of saying that thousands, not just thousands, thousands and thousands of people have created small businesses growing out of their economic and social poverty over the last 2 decades in this part of the world. We have been training people to do so in other countries also, in Africa, in Nepal, in Sri Lanka. And this is now growing, but at a very slow pace, because it is a process that requires well-trained facilitators of change. We have to find ways in which we are able to identify and train such facilitators. It is a lot of painstaking work, and it requires good training. Next, please. The beautiful thing also is that the process can be scaled up. So we are not just talking about a group of people, 10, 20, 30, 100. We are talking about millions. So in small groups, people create small groups in different locations. So maybe 5 to 10 groups in one village. They can come together and form a federation. They can form a company. So it depends on the rules and bylaws of the country. What are the laws of that country within which people can come together, start their small businesses, and connect to mainstream? We find that it is slightly different from country to country, society to society. But then that's the innovation. We scale up based on the laws of that country. And we have seen that this is possible everywhere. Laws everywhere are welcoming the disadvantaged, the people who have not been able to connect. The laws are always in favor of finding ways in which the people can be gradually raised from their position of poverty and inequality. So these are some of the real life meetings of when people do come up through small groups, they federate into larger groups and become strong even politically. And that is what creates even more joy, because now they are able to bargain with political leaders on what is right for their society, for their area, and so on. So this is something that has been happening, but again, at a very small level, you can say in ways in which much needs to be done. Much needs to be done. Next, please. This is one important aspect that I need to stress here. Consciousness raising or awareness raising at a collective level cannot be done systematically without generating such consciousness and awareness in our own self. To let go of our arrogance, to let go of our egos, to be able to connect to people, to be able to facilitate a process in which they take the lead, they move forward without our being, our taking the credit. This requires building of a lot of self-awareness. That self-awareness is something what we have been discussing with a large number of participants that have been coming to learn the context of self-help with us over the last almost 2.5 decades. we have always asked one question to all these participants. Okay, so what do we do now? We have understood, but where do we start? And almost all of them felt that we need to start with ourselves. So this process of understanding what do we need to do to generate self-awareness has given us these wonderful steps in conscious living. These steps in conscious living have evolved from interaction with development professionals over 2 decades. And it gives us a beautiful list. Let's see this, what this list is. Next, please. The first is very simple. It's about reflection on purpose. Why are we doing whatever we are doing? Sometimes we are just doing it for sake of, maybe we have a job with a donor agency or with a NGO or with the government. We're simply doing a job. And we are simply, following laid out instructions. Is that the purpose? Unless we examine our own purpose of why we are engaging and what we are trying to do, we can actually lose sight of the entire process. We can actually easily cheat ourselves. We can actually start believing that we are doing a lot without doing anything. We can start projecting ourselves as heroes without actually making any meaningful change. It's very important to reflect not just on the purpose of our actions, the purpose of our life itself, but our actions may be continuing forever. Have we examined that in the context of the goals of our own lives? What is it that we are trying to achieve from our lives, not just from the project? Next, please. Understanding of this larger purpose is fundamental. There is need to go beyond what we are doing immediately, to have a feel for that larger purpose. If we do that, this is what we have seen over years. Thousands, believe me, thousands of non-governmental organizations, government officers have been through this process of reflecting on purpose together. We have been doing that systematically over years. If we do it honestly, it leads to a new understanding of our own purpose, the purpose of the project, the purpose of our lives. That gives momentum, it gives joy, it gives a special feeling. And that is what creates innovation. That is what creates energy to move forward despite challenges. Any meaningful change is full of challenges. It requires infinite amount of patience. It requires infinite amount of understanding of why things are happening, why they are not happening, and so on. This can only come if there's a larger purpose beyond what we are doing there. And focus on that purpose all the time continues to give us the energy and the joy of doing it. And it is so fundamental. Next, please. The next step, apart from finding a purpose, is to be able to reflect, not just at self-individual level, but at a collective level. So this is about collective reflection. Self-reflection is inadequate. We need to reflect collectively. This applies to all societies, everywhere. We are all doing it in a way, but maybe we are not doing it very honestly. Maybe we are not doing it in a manner where we are able to go deep, examine our values, examine our beliefs, examine our practices. A superficial reflection is not enough. We have to go deep into understanding our beliefs and values. Are we willing to share our mistakes? Are we willing to share our weaknesses? This is so important. We are continually making mistakes. We have so many weaknesses. We simply, brush them under the carpet and move forward as if nothing has happened. Collective reflection is about creating an atmosphere where people are able to come up with their own weaknesses, with their own mistakes, with their own values, which may be right, which may be wrong. The whole idea is not right or wrong, but to be able to share them collectively. That is what creates energy. That is what creates some kind of synergy, unbelievable synergy, through which we are able to then move forward with a very clear goal, agenda of making things happen in a joyful manner, in a meaningful manner, in a trustful manner. And this is, the process has certain techniques. This collective reflection process has certain techniques. We have been gradually able to evolve these techniques over time, and that have made a significant difference to the whole working perspective practices of a large number of people. I sincerely believe that all of us, north, south, east, west, we need to understand how do we reflect on our own lives and how do we reflect collectively in an honest manner, in a deep manner, understanding the techniques to do that. For example, one of the techniques is to make ourselves vulnerable. That means we don't project ourselves as the hero, but to project ourselves that, yes, I have been making mistakes. I have made this mistake. Can you also share what is it that we can learn from your experience? So collective reflection is all about going deep, starting with our own self. We'll be happy to share, we have been taking courses on the subject of enabling people to understand how to do self-reflection and collective reflection, and it has produced beautiful results. Next, please. The third step is all about conscious self-control. Again, as I mentioned before, we have so many biases. All of us have. We have so many prejudices. We have so many preconceived notions. We always think that we are right. Self-righteousness, arrogance, complex, habitual patterns of thinking. As a human being, we are full of these. We are full of envy, greed, jealousy, unfulfilled desires. How can we move forward of enabling awareness at the community level when we are lost in our own battle with our own selves, with uncontrolled desires and egos and biases of all kinds? There is a process through which we can gradually, it's a systematic way of gradually overcoming them. But we have to start with the gross ones first. And many of the gross ones are terrible, really. At the local level, we find the gross, loss of self-control happens with stupid things. Next slide, please. And one of them is the increasing use of drugs and alcohol. Believe me, whichever society you work with, Africa, South Asia, East Asia, Southern America, we find at the local level, people are into alcohol and drugs, partly because of the misery in their lives, but partly also because the circumstances, the people are unwilling to face the circumstances and have gone deep into alcohol, which automatically leads to domestic violence. And domestic violence is a terrible thing happening in all societies. Most of us, in our effort to bring change, are completely overlooking this aspect. And therefore, the results are simply whitewash. Oh yes, I have achieved so much. But then what have you really achieved if there's so much of violence going on within? We have been able to create a lot of innovations in that respect. So here you see, this is one of my old photographs where I'm administering vows. So collectively, when there's an assembly of even 30, 50 or more, we gradually create an environment in which we enable people to take vows of complete abandonment, complete leaving, moving behind, leaving the alcohol or the drugs altogether. This is a process which will again be culture specific. In India, we found a way of administering vows by taking water in hand. But this could be different in different cultures. We have to innovate. We have to find ways in which we can enable people to gradually move away from this menace. and move towards greater self-control. This has beautiful results directly impacting domestic violence, and it is so important. Next, please. Again, part of something that has emerged from discussion is about having conscious speech. Many of people on ground tend to lose control of what they are talking. Abusive language becomes the norm. We are simply, reacting. Somebody has said something, immediately react. And we react again with some violent words, which leads to further violence in words again, which might lead to violence in action. Can we evolve a mechanism of conscious control of speech? What I have found is that yes, we can. If you are able to discuss it and have focus on it collectively, conscious speech is possible. It needs a calm and relaxed approach. It needs a discussion. It needs an appreciation. It needs more and more, understanding that foul speech can be a source of misery, violence, anywhere and everywhere in the world. This is happening across the world. Politics is all about foul speech. It is happening across nations. Egos, arrogance, we tend to talk nonsense at times. Can we control ourselves? There are a lot of well-established processes. And I've just quoted one from one of her spiritual giants called the Mother, where she says that we must immediately keep quiet when we enter into a nonsensical argument. Just keep quiet, fall back, reflect, and gradually respond in a calm, relaxed manner. Well, again, it's part of our training, or let's say sharing of ideas of conscious living. Conscious speech is an important component of conscious living. Next, please. This is something that has again emerged from a lot of observation by people themselves, people who call themselves development professionals. When we seriously examine their lives, most of them mention that a large part of their actual existence of connections goes waste because of their own style of living. People prefer to live in 5-star hotels when they're traveling. People are wearing all kinds of funny dresses. People are fond of showing off whatever they have. And this is a practice that is then followed up by youth. It is followed up by everyone. People are now buying things across. Little money that they have, they'll use it to buy some cream or some new shirt, even if there aren't enough resources. It's almost like people want to visit these shopping malls and they are bound to buy. And now we have so many brands. The interesting aspect is that this is one of the major features that is leading to this climate catastrophe. The more and more consumption. Even just the textile part of it. Textiles, would you believe, produce 10% of the carbon emissions, just textiles, which is more than the carbon emissions from transport industry. Can we move towards simple living, controlled consumption, conscious consumption? It's very easily possible. It's just about being conscious. Conscious living helps us to connect to reality, to connect to people, to connect to nature, to connect to our own self, through just being conscious of what we are buying, what we are wearing, what we are doing. It is fundamental to living itself. Next, please. What a beautiful thing. We need to be conscious about our relationships. I have been taking courses on this subject among the youths for almost 2 years now. This is one response coming from a student. I just like to read it. This is a student of computer science from a premier institution in India. And he says, the experience of taking on shared responsibility of the household has assisted me in developing traits such as sensitivity, kindness, helpfulness, courtesy, and a willingness to learn new things. This is a young student in the 20s who's talking about these after a small assignment on conscious relationships. And he says further that I want to encourage everyone to give it a shot and see the great difference it can make in their own lives as well as the lives of their families. This is Pratik Gujral. I have hundreds of such statements. We can enter into conscious relationships through methods in which we share responsibilities consciously. It is not happening. All of us tend to be full of egos and arrogance, and we forget about our relationships with our close friends and families. That needs to take on a new direction throughout the world. This is happening. The misery is almost due to lack of conscious relationships. Next, please. There are a few more steps because we have limited time. I am not going into those details, but when we do this course on conscious living, we will move into some more steps, some of which are linked to conscious sharing and so on. But then I take understanding what have thought leaders of different civilizations talked about change. What have they talked about awareness? What is it that we can learn from our own civilizations? All civilizations across the world, they have talked of beautiful things that we have almost forgotten, or we don't want to understand and listen. In the rush, the life has become a rush, a material rush to acquire more. Can we stop, check, understand what these gems that are spread all over the world? I have only focused on a very selected few from thousands. So the next few slides will be these gems coming from selected thought leaders of different civilizations. The idea is to just give an idea. Once we go through a proper course, we'll see that these gems are spread all across. We are moving with closed eyes. We are moving with closed heads and unable to pick up these gems. What are these gems? Just a few of them. Next slide. The Greek civilization had these famous thinkers, practical thinkers, Socrates, Plato, and so on. Read about their lives. They were ordinary people, but then they strived towards excellence in understanding about life itself. And one of the famous statements coming from Socrates, the lovely statement. What does he say? An unexamined life is not worth living. An unexamined life. That means when we are not examining our life of what we are doing, what we are thinking. If you're not examining that, and whatever we are doing is meaningless, is useless. We must examine our lives deeply, and that's what's going to make it worth living. It's a very deep statement. I would recommend thinking about it later on and examining one's own life very deeply to understand where we are going. Next, please. Again, from another civilization that was 3,500 years old. This is about 1,200 years old, coming from, who's now known as the famous saint from Italy, Francis of Assisi. Read his life again. There's a beautiful film also made on his life, Brother, Sun, Sister, Moon. But look at his quotes. They are beautiful quotes. They can apply to anyone who's trying towards systematic change. Let's see the first quote. Start by doing what is necessary. I'm repeating, start by doing what is necessary. Don't wait, start. Then do what is possible. We have started, now we move ahead and do what is possible. Soon we realize that we are doing the impossible. Beautiful statement, very practical and down to earth. We usually don't start. We are stuck up with our own follies, our own small world. We never start on things that we want to do. And we never get anywhere. Start. Let's see what is possible. And soon we see that we are doing the impossible. I'd like you to read these closely. There's so many of them which applies to life almost as it is. It's coming from another civilization, another age, another person who has seen life from another context. And it's like, do few things, but do them well. Such a simple statement. Simple joys are holy. Do few things, do them well. When we are moving forward in life, most of us forget these very simple truths of life. We have to bring this back. This is part of conscious living. Next, please. Another civilization, this is the Chinese civilization. You must have heard of the famous Chinese, father of Chinese Taoism, his name was Lao Tzu. He's written wonderful books. And I recommend, if you have not seen them, to read some of his books. And he's like almost unbelievable, very simple, short statements. And they are so meaningful. But I'm just posing a few. Coming from another civilization, completely different context. And he's saying about that if we have to move forward, we must have reverence for life. There's a spelling mistake here. When we live life with reverence, what does it mean? Reverence for all life, whether it's an animal, whether it's a bird, whether it's a poor person, whether it's a rich person, whatever, where there is life, we must have reverence for it. If we have reverence for life, we surrender our need to control. So this is the biggest. We are often having the urgency, the need to control others, to dominate others, within our houses, within our homes, within society, within communities. Having reverence for life is so basic, and this can be practiced on a daily basis. We usually tend to just simply ignore. No, we must revere life. Beautiful thing again, gentleness. And he says this is often interpreted as weakness. But gentleness is sensitivity. It is all about respect to life. In life, it is far more important to be kind and gentle than to be right. What a statement. It is more important to be kind and gentle than to be right. We have to examine what exactly has been said by thought leaders from different civilizations who have learned about life in their own context. And they all tend to converge. You see, if you examine some of these, I've just picked up a few from thousands, just to give an indication that life is beautiful. When we are talking about change, we have to move in that direction, which gives joy. And there's so much available to learn from. Next, please. This is coming from the Indian civilization, the famous, wonderful, powerful person called Swami Vivekananda. He shook the world in the 1900 in the Parliament of Religions in Chicago. And he's famous. So there are thousands of quotes from him, but I'm just quoting one. It is better to die. Death is better than to lead a vegetating, ignorant life. That means if you are simply living for sake of living, without having a purpose. And that's what we see in so many places. People are simply just spending their lives without any sense, just living. I think you can identify with that. Having no real purpose, no real aim, just simply living. And he said, death is better than a vegetating, ignorant life. A vegetating, ignorant life is a kind of a style of saying. Can we have a purpose? Can we move in a direction of the purpose? Something that gives us joy, gives us energy, gives us momentum. Believe me, I've been through training of facilitators of change, professionals for a long time now. And I have not seen this urge of having a purpose, of doing something meaningful. We need to create this meaning, and it is possible. I'm saying it again and again and again. It is possible to create this purpose by designing our programs of awareness, of reflection and action systematically. And we need to incorporate this in all our programs of development and change, because it is possible to do so. Next, please. Now, this is a very deep statement, and I believe we have to see it in context. Sri Aurobindo was a person who went beyond the realms of ordinary consciousness, very deep consciousness of understanding ourselves. And he's well known for that. There's an ashram in Pondicherry in India, where together with Mother, they were working on different levels of consciousness, of how to reach them, how to enable people to reach them. And one of his statements is absolutely fundamental. And he says, we are not only what we know of ourselves. We know ourselves, but we are not only what we know of ourselves, but an immense more which we do not know of ourselves. Our momentary personality is only a bubble, the ocean of our existence. Our mind and ego are like a crown and dome of a temple jutting out from the waves, while the great body of the building is submerged under the surface of the waters. This concealed self and consciousness is a real or whole being. So we are not really aware of a whole being. Much of it is concealed. Can we gradually create an atmosphere, a process through which we learn about our real self? It's about silencing a mind. It's about a process of gradually silencing a mind, which is needed, very importantly, very essential component of life through which we really know ourselves. So this is another dimension coming from the Indian civilizational context. Knowing ourselves, being self-aware is fundamental to living, of helping ourselves and therefore to help others. Next, please. Again, an extension by Mira Alfada, a French lady who joined Sri Aurobindo, who says the same thing, that essentially there is but one single true reason for living, is to know oneself. And if you do not know that, our life is altogether empty for ourselves and for others. So if you're trying to help others without knowing ourselves, without knowing what we are trying to do, what is the purpose, what is the aim, what is the larger purpose, how can we really help? What is the point in trying to do anything at all? There is need to go deep, and it is possible. Process of conscious living by steps. This cannot happen overnight. It has to be through simple steps, and it leads to beautiful outcomes. Next, please. I have now been, connecting to youth in colleges, in different places, and look at the impact. These are student voices, real voices in writing. Look at the impact it has on the young mind. This is young mind, the same energetic mind. The course on conscious living has provided valuable insights into how communities can work together with individuals to promote social justice. Monetary help is temporary. We should empower them. It is supremely important to pause and perform a self-evaluation of our activities. I've understood how even a small facilitator can bring about change in the lives of many. So a large number of very small, these are coming from young people. That is what gives me hope. Young people understanding life is so important, whatever be their occupation. There's another slide to this. Can we come to the next slide? There are hundreds of them, hundreds of them. It is enlightening to know how correct knowledge empowerment can prove wonders and create sustainable solutions. Coming from Aditya. The course made me think about what I am doing to myself and questioning myself. It is really enlightening to know how correct knowledge can prove wonders. The idea of collective conscience appealed to me the most. I feel on the same level. All of us are part of this, but it goes very underappreciated. Can we become mentors? Can we start talking, create an atmosphere where the youth can be enabled to understand these fundamentals of life? Whatever be their profession, social work, managers, engineers, politicians, whatever. Understanding simple processes of building self-awareness and collective awareness are fundamental to living and creating alternatives through a process of enabling and empowerment. It is all possible. And that is the motivation that I'm having to speak here. It is all possible. We all need to do it, become part of it. Next, please. This comes from another totally different group of people. These are government officers engaged in change. Look at what this senior government officer says. I had never thought about myself. Why should they think about this? They are government officers. It is true that my earlier notions were based on an arrogance that whatever I'm doing is right. Not anymore. I realize that I know so little. This is coming from a government officer. I realize that I know so little. I can learn from an honest, caring attitude. Other one says, this earlier negative thinking has completely changed. This will start a new chapter in my life. It will be possible to bring social change only after abandoning selfishness and consumptive nature. Just amazing. Next, please. Again, international voices. We have been getting international students from different parts of the world. So here is this European voice who says that, I'm forced to think about myself, how I talk, how I act. And from now on, it will be very important for me to be sincere, real, truthful to my values. This is certainly not happening to the youths. People confused. This person from the African region, the Kabanda, says that despite the fact that he was exposed to development change for several years, the emphasis on development from within is what I needed most. Development and social change without focus on issues that affect you as a person within is useless. Similar whole idea of awareness. Next, please. Again, coming from a friend in Kenya, after a program, it dawned to me that many other participants, the life is more than just earning an income and raising a family. The deep reflections were quite fundamental in reinforcing the power of self-consciousness and inner peace. Similarly, another student from Norway, a student of social work, he talks about control of mind to be able to make right decisions. We have very little time, so I'll move forward. Next, please. So what are we trying to say here? That if we have to move towards meaningful change, humanitarian change globally, anywhere in the world, the community has to take center stage. We have to move away from, the governments are doing the job, let the macro level governments do the job. But we as citizens need to work at the community level. We have to start with human awakening, start with ourselves, start with self-awareness. This is what we call Manavodaya. That's the name of the institution, human awakening. Start with ourselves, self-awareness. Move towards collective awareness, which is community awakening. And that is what will lead us to the global awakening. This is a process that we can all follow. All of us as citizens can start with this process. And in the spirit of making the, feeling that the world is our family. This terminology comes from, the Indian spiritual, book called the Vedas, where it's called the world is one family. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. We are all one, really. It's just that we are living in different places, but actually we are all one. So to understand that, to go forward with that spirit and start with ourselves and the community is the way that I see forward for bringing positive change in the lives of people. Next, please. This is now for discussion. If we really have to do this, we can, start understanding. This is just an introduction, just a kind of a motivation to go deeper. There are online courses, in-person courses available on conscious living. I really feel that a large number of us could become a mentor. And the mentoring process is something that we can actually share how we have been doing it over years, how we can all do it. Can we do a small course in mentorship in conscious living? There's so many simple steps. There's a lot of assignments given, and it leads to beautiful change. That is one aspect. Can many of us, Citizens Network members, become mentors in their own context, enabling youth to understand life perspectives from another joyous viewpoint, where confusion is then lost and is giving direction, giving more energy, giving more momentum, and making life more meaningful and joyful. It is possible, and I really feel that many of us should try and become, we can call them mentors, we can call whatever is feasible in your context, but this is possible. A mentor should have a group of people. It could be students, youth, anywhere, and it starts by starting to connect with them at different levels. Mentoring doesn't mean giving top-down understanding. It means connecting to them, enabling them to understand the challenges. Climate change is one of them. Poverty, inequality, these are challenges. Youth like challenges. They like us. They like to face the challenges, and that is the challenge that we have to give them. Mentoring is all about that, and that is what leads to change. The next call for action is about the large number of young people who can actually make change at the community level, but then through a process of collective awareness, not by giving, but by actually facilitating change, generating collective awareness. Such youth are waiting in hundreds and thousands, because we'll need scholarships. Somebody has to support the cost of living for such youth, the cost of their training, so that they can follow collective awareness methods. This is all an ongoing program at a very small level, which needs to be scaled up in different contexts, in different societies and different countries. And this will obviously require some kind of a connectivity, support, networking, through which such people can be identified, trained, and put on the task towards that humanitarian order, towards building up strong communities through self-help, through empowerment, so on. This is what I had to say. I really would like to open up the discussion to all those who wish to know more and who wish to get involved.
Thank you so much, Varun, for this very inspirational talk. And I believe that we are not alone here to say that this kind of message and theory and practice resonates around the world. Some people might say that, okay, this can happen and function in India, but not in other countries. What do you say to them?
In practice, we have already been engaging with people from both countries which are so-called developed, let's say Norway, UK, as well as countries in South, countries in Africa, in Ethiopia, Kenya, countries in South Asia, Nepal, Sri Lanka. They have not only attended programs, but they've followed them up with programs in their own countries with good results. The point is that this needs to be taken up, and we need to create a narrative. The principles are same. The human beings are same. It's just that we are living in different contexts. If we follow these principles, I find that it makes sense everywhere. So I see that doubt as really, because are really meaningless because we have been actually following it for last many years in many countries.
Thank you, Varun. I have a question here from the audience.
Yes.
Thank you very much for your talk. The processes you are talking about aim at creating solutions from the ground, and this requires time. In your experience, do donors who usually want quick results understand and support these processes?
I have been faced with this question maybe 1,000 times. And it is logical, it makes sense. I've been faced with this question from senior government bureaucrats. Even the government wants things to be done quickly. What is important is to understand that when through a slow process, people take charge, the ramifications are that it spreads very fast at the level. So if we are able to create a model in one area, the model replicates very fast in that region because people are watching. There's no special need to have special sessions with all of them. They all watch each other and there's a competition and it builds up. It's like, snowball. It starts with a small snowball and it rolls up into a huge boulder. I've seen this happening. Believe me that we need to be a little patient. We need to be honest with the results, and the process snowballs. It also meets the targets. In fact, it goes beyond targets. I've had experience of this in a special program where a small group of branch managers were given a target of creating some self-help groups. They went in this manner. In a few months, they were not able to do much. But by the end of the program, they all overachieved their targets.
It's good that you mentioned snowballs, as I'm from Finland. We believe that you can create great snowmen out of very small snowballs. So Manavodaya is a member of Citizen Network Cooperative that supports the global movement of citizenship and communities. So we, together with Varun, we invite you to create smaller and larger snowballs that then can get bigger and bigger together. So we would like to offer an opportunity for you to join Manavodaya and Citizen Network by contributing to the movement. And we have built various ways how to make impact, growing this conscious living movement in your local communities. You can create a mini contribution from 10 to 100 euros, which will provide the cost of 2-day training of 1 to 10 persons. And you can create a immediate contribution, perhaps once a year, coming from your group or community, from 500 to 5,000. That could assist a group of rural youth to attend an intensive residential 5-day program for rejuvenation of self-help groups, cooperatives, and pharma companies. So building the network in various areas. With a maxi contribution of, let's say, 10,000 euros, we are willing to support you to provide both training and financial support to youth for sustained work in a rural setup towards meeting sustainable development goals. So if the world is now seeking for solutions for wicked and challenging and complex, even chaotic challenges of our lifetime, we need self-awareness, community awareness, and global awareness. We need self-consciousness, community consciousness, and global consciousness. And we know this is demanding and takes time, but there are no quick routes to changing lives. But Varun and Manavodaya show us that it is possible. And through conscious skill building, we are able to do it. So Varun, what is the next place where we meet, where we can build and learn the skills related with conscious living?
We have been organizing courses. We just finished one course on conscious cooperation for Nepalese cooperative leaders. And our next plan is to do online course. This course was in person. People from Nepal could easily come over to India. They stayed here for a week. And I think it was a beautiful experience for all of us. We can do, for those who cannot come to India, we are planning an online course, especially for mentors, those who want to mentor the youth. So a special course for the international participants sometime in July. And for, let's say, people in South Asia, we are happy to do this sometime in June itself, early in June. So those who would like to register can go to our website and register for these courses. We are also planning literally a retreat somewhere in the winter season, that around November, December. So those who wish to come and have a direct engagement on this subject, then such a program is planned in the winter. But there are several options. There are also short courses available. Many people opt for very short courses. We have recently been approached by local colleges here just for a, let us say, 6-hour session with the youth in 3 sittings. So we are happy to do that, because the youth is really very open to learning, especially if we give them a challenge of change. And I see that we must make opportunity and create more mentors in all societies, including those in Finland or UK or elsewhere, where we can connect to youth and enable them, to see life differently. This is definitely possible, and I think we should all strive in that direction.
Thank you, Varun, and everybody here in this session, and everybody who watch this on YouTube. Please register as free members of Citizen Network from our website, citizennetwork.org, and get the latest information about our future training and seminars and webinars around Manavodaya. And I would like to thank Varun very much for this event. This is the first of the many coming later on. So if you would like to have your own webinar on site or own seminar on site on conscious living, please contact Varun through Manavodaya or me, Markus Vähälä, through Citizen Network, and let's make it happen.
Do we have time for some questions? We have, for example, Ilrida from Norway, and she has really sought to live a different life. Ilrida, is it possible to start some small, let's say, mentorship programs in your context? Yes. You have to unmute yourself, Ilrida.
Yes. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Perfect. Now, I think Marcus gave me permission to unmute me because we haven't accessory to the mute and the video. Hi, Varun.
Hello, Ilrida. So
very nice. And hi, Marcus. So very nice to hear a presentation again. It's motivating every time. I think about the mentorship all the time in my daily work, Varun. And as I'm working for NAV, it's like Norwegian Work and Welfare. These kind of topics are very important to empower the people who we daily talk to, and especially with my group that are immigrants from a lot of places in the world. So this kind of like in my daily job at the council, I do this every day, but like more private, this can take time to build those kind of groups. But we have small projects within the Norwegian Work and Welfare, who works with groups and mentoring and how to get involved for people to get work who have fallen out of some their situation in like because of health or immigrants, as I said. So actually, it is only to introduce this website of yours.
Yep.
And we can get more people engaged, and I'll be happy to introduce this for more people, what we do at Manavodaya, for my boss, and also for my private friends and family, of course.
Let's try out one event, Ilida. Let's try out one event in Norway.
Yes. That would be my pleasure. It's like a dream came true. I just have to to take a step and just go for it.
Yes, let's explore. Okay, good. Thank you for your comments. We have Mitendra Arya from Quantum University in North India. He has already led a group of people, students in this subject. Mitendra, how was your overall experience? Did you find some noticeable change or change of perspective among the students? Mitendra, you have to unmute yourself.
Hello, sir. Very good evening.
Hello.
So it was a very nice experience. As I discussed with my group of students, they are quite a few active now, and the assignment given by you, sir, that has been explored very nicely. As I told you that we adopted, 3 to 4 villages around the campus. So
very good.
Students need to go there and finding those assignments given by you, and now we are willing to give more extension to the club we are starting in the campus.
Let's work on it. That's very good to hear. That's very good to hear.
Thank you, sir.
Wonderful. Thank you for joining. Can we have some more voices? I see some other people around. Greg, Lawrence, Stephanie. Stephanie, you're from the United States? Would you like to say something?
Hi, I'm Laurence.
Hello, Laurence.
From South Africa.
You're from South Africa. Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, I think for me, the conscious living was a personal journey, but the way you present it to bring it to the organization is, yeah, it's quite innovative. I'm sure it's could be very valuable and necessary in our country that's also facing major challenges. But yeah, I think the whole team, first the management team and everybody here to go through that process and believe in it. So it's going to be a long journey. It's my first time, my first introduction to you and to the debate. So I'm really, really glad. I really enjoyed your positivity and belief and passion. I love it. But it's going to be a journey for us. Thank you very much for welcoming me.
Lawrence, let's talk about it. You can send a small mail and we're trying to find ways in which we can make this possible. There are so many people to help out here.
Thank you so much, Varun.
You have our mail address. Please do send a small mail and we'll try to find ways in which we can connect to the youth in South Africa.
Thank you.
Can we have some other inputs? Olu Wakemi. Have I pronounced that right? or should I just say Samuel? You have to unmute yourself. Maybe there's a problem with the net. Greg, can we hear more about you, Greg?
So we are almost there to the hour. So
Yes.
I would like to ask us to continue this connection we have created today in the forthcoming trainings, and through Citizen Network and through Manavodaya. You can contact Varun directly from the website, email address. I would like to thank Festival of Debate and Johnny Douglas today for hosting us and facilitating this webinar. And could you tell a little bit what happens next in the Festival of Debate?
Thanks, Marcus. You can find more information on the remaining couple of weeks or so of the festival at the festivalofdebate.com website. Here is just a kind of bit of a glimpse of kind of what's still to come. Some of these events are in person, some of them are online, and some of them are both. So you'll be able to dial into even the physical events that are happening here in the UK. But if you just go to the festivalofdebate.com website, you can browse the program of the remaining events, and we'll also be uploading the videos we have of the filmed and online events, so you can watch back some of the events that we've captured so far in the festival.
Thank you so much, Johnny. Thank you especially to Varun for having us experience this webinar. Both me and Simon Duffy, we are very glad that now we can continue together. There's ways how to contribute, there's ways to learn together, there's ways to create a meaningful life. So I wish all of you the very best, and let's continue collaborating.
Wonderful. Please do keep in touch through the mail, and we'll definitely move forward with many of the ideas that were spoken here.
Thank you, Marcus and Simon, for hosting, and thank you once again for Varun. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Hopefully we'll see you again soon.